Hello and welcome everyone once again to yet another session of the Machine Learning Bootcamp. And here we are going to get started with Python. So let's begin. So as I was telling you about installation of Python, so we just went to this python.org website and here you can see, so this is their site. You can just go to download and download whichever platform you are choosing and that. And with this download, what you get is you get Python, and with it you get an IDE of Python, which is Python idle. Okay, so I'll show how Python idle looks like. I haven't installed it because I don't like it, to be honest. But if you download from this python.org, then you will see this Python idle, which is installed with that package. And what it looks like is this. So yeah, so you have this kind of terminal where you can write Python, and for scripting, you have something like this. So it's just like a normal text editor. So you have these things pre-installed when you download Python from python.org, and here you can just then run, and it will show some things like means it will show your output in this shell. So that's how Python idle works, but I don't like that one. So you have another choice, and that is download using Anaconda installer. So what Anaconda installer is, it's just a data science toolkit for you guys. And what I mean by it is that it contains all the libraries, like these libraries pre-installed used for machine learning, and they come with a very good GUI, and it's like very helpful for us to use. So I'll show you. So this is how actually their GUI looks like. So it downloads Python. Okay, so you don't need to download Python externally. What you have to do is just go to anaconda.com and there go to their downloads page. And then once you download the Anaconda Navigator and you boot it, you will see a menu like this. Let's see if this it can be seen in full screen. Okay, well, this is the maximum resolution they have. So you will see this kind of UI, and you can see you can launch a Jupyter Notebook, which is just a like IDE, that is integrated development environment, or just like a notebook where you can write your Python code. Another option is Jupyter Lab. So like Jupyter Notebook, Jupyter Lab, kind of similar. It's just that what platform you prefer to write your code. And another thing that you can use is Visual Studio Code that I have with me. So see, downloading Anaconda installer or Miniconda, which is just a short version of Anaconda installer without GUI. I won't recommend you Miniconda. So those people who rated like they know from 1 to 3 Python and they don't know how to set up Miniconda and all, don't go through that pain. Just go to this Anaconda installer page, and there you can download Anaconda Navigator, and from that you can boot your like these ideal platforms. So these are very good. And one more thing is that on Anaconda Navigator, you get this applications on, if this is visible, I guess, because the image is very blurred. Let's see if we have another photo of Anaconda Navigator. See, so yeah, this is better. Yeah, of course. You're going to use online compiler only, but I am just showing those of you who are very much interested in setting up locally. So for them, I'm showing. And you're going to be using Google Colab. So this is how the Anaconda Navigator looks like, and you have this thing called as virtual environments. So virtual environment is just kind of a directory you have, and in that you install Python packages, and it works like that. So it's very convenient to use. Don't go much in virtual environments and all. It's not a problem, but I'm just telling you that it's a great platform and you can use it. So Anaconda Navigator or Miniconda, whatever thing you use, then you have to select your IDE. IDE is where you will write the code. And you can write code in VS Code, which is my favorite, to be honest. not for this like for Python scripting, and not for using IDE for notebooks. Then there is Jupyter Notebook, which is in the Anaconda Navigator that I showed you. So this is the, okay, where is the Jupyter Notebook? Yeah. So there is a Jupyter Notebook button. You can just write install and launch. So that's how you can use Jupyter Notebooks. And then there is, of course, the Spider and Jupyter Lab, which are also present in Anaconda Navigator. So that was about it. And this is about offline installations. But we are going to be using online. So online thing that you would be using is collab.research.google.com. So it is called as Google Collaboratory, and what it is that it's just an online compiler. Okay. So in this Google Collaboratory, what you do is you get a similar thing as of a Jupyter Notebook, and you can just write your Python codes in here. Okay, and you can also give supporting text, which is in Markdown language. Okay, and you can just run these scripts like these particular tab by tab, so you don't have to write a whole script and then just like mess up your head with debugging that which line went wrong. So instead you can just run it these tabs by tabs. So that's how these platforms work. And this Google Colab, it has free access to GPU, it's easy to share and everything. And the best part is it's online, so you don't have to worry about offline installations or anything. And it's free, of course. So I think this would be best for you guys. And there are pre-installed packages which you'll be needing, like NumPy, Pandas, in each and everything is just pre-installed in this collab. So what I expect you guys to do is just go to Google this link, uh, collab.research.google.com.
I shared with them, Atharva.
Okay, great. So Aditya has shared with you this link. Just go to this link. You will see something like this. Sign in with your any preferred email ID. Okay. So I'll just use one of my email IDs. Okay. So once you go here, you can just create new notebook and you can work around with it. So if you like, I would be showing you notebooks. I would be giving you introduction of Python, showing you some basic commands. So if you want to follow up with me, what you will do is just go to this collab.research.google.com, log in with your account, create a new notebook, and you will see something like this. So here is, you can write your code. So let's say I've written a code here, and you can just, there is a shortcut, control plus enter or command plus enter, and this code will start executing. You get an online RAM, and that's how it works. Can I do the code? Yeah, of course. So for VS Code, what you have to do, Pranav, is that first you need to have Python installed in your system. So for Python being installed on your system, if it's already there, then it's well and good. You can just select the interpreter as Python and work with it. Or yeah, like you can just download Anaconda installer, and then after that you can select VS Code. So here I have VS Code. I like VS Code for scripting and other app creating because I like it very much. And why I like is because it is just like your normal notebook. But what is exceptional is that you can write your Python code, C++ code in each and everything using some things called as these extensions. So just you have to install this Python extension, and you would be Python and of course Jupyter if you are trying to use notebooks, and then you can just basically use Python. Similarly for C and C++ extensions. So there are like various kinds of C. There is C and C++ extension by Microsoft itself. So these things then support writing in C and C++. And VS Code is as much as light as a normal notepad. So it's just best. Well, if no, like if you don't know about VS Code and any other these local setups, then you don't need to worry. Just go to this one thing, that is collab.research.google.com, and you would be good to go. So you don't have to worry about this hectic installations and everything. Okay. So if this is clear, let's proceed forward. Do we have any doubts, Aditya?
No, I can't see any of the routes. You can proceed.
Yeah, so by the way, I am using Miniconda because I prefer it. And once you are pretty much handy with Python, then of course you can use it. And I have created a virtual environment named APK, and I am just using Jupyter Notebook. You have to proceed with Google Collaboratory. I would be using Jupyter Notebook because I prefer it. It's just about your preference, and it's not just specific that you have to use this or that.
If you are using Jupyter, you have to install all the dependencies, but in Colab, you have all the dependencies installed, so you don't have to much worry about it.
If you
Just
are
go
doing
with Colab.
installation like from python.org, then you would be seeing lots of errors like numpy not found, pandas not found, and it will give you a headache. So that's why we are recommending Google Colab, because it has everything pre-installed. And if you are using python.org, that Python idle, then what you have to do is you have to do pip install and whatever library you have to. So pip is basically Python, package installer of Python. It comes pre-installed with Python. Okay, Prathamesh, I just showed you about VS Code. Actually, I loaded these notebooks in VS Code as well, but I don't like the look of how these notebooks look in this in VS Code. Means I prefer normal Jupyter than VS Code. So this is how it looks in Jupyter, array VS Code, and this is how it looks in Jupyter. So I prefer Jupyter. I don't know why. And just for these notebooks in Python, for scripting, I like VS Code very, very much. So that's about it. And here, as I said, so you can select where is your Python installed. So I have Python 3.8.2, and these are my Conda based environments. So this APK environment and this the base environment.
Okay, Dal is asking about how do you start up Jupyter in VS Code. Okay, Dal, so there is an extension called as Jupyter Notebooks in your VS Code. You just have to install it. There are various extensions, Jupyter, Python, CPP, anything. All these extensions are provided inbuilt in VS Code. You just have to install them.
Daryl, sorry, but it's I think Daryl, if I'm not wrong, and I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong as well. So you have various extensions for it. So Jupyter is one of those, and this is how you can load your notebooks in VS Code as well. So
okay,
we
great.
won't be using code. Okay, so I think you can just start with saving a file named .ipynb, that is IPython notebook, and I think you would be good to go. So this session would be like a crash course of Python for you guys. And just like for in 1 hour, you would be covering total Python, and it is completely impossible. We know that too. So you have to go back to these notebooks. We would be uploading these notebooks on GitHub, and you have to go back to those notebooks. You are going to read lines. You are going to interpret what those mean, and that's how you would be able to get hang of it. Also, in the end of our PPT, we have shared some resources where you will get help in getting started with Python. So let's begin. So if you are coding in Google Collaboratory, so you can just copy whatever is written and you can try executing these things yourself. So there are, as I told you in the previous session, there are various there are various packages in Python you can use. And the package named this, it is not a package, but it's kind of an Easter egg in Python. And it just gives you, I'll just execute this once again. So it gives you 19 rules of writing a good Python program. So it's just a set of instructions, about writing programs in Python. So beautiful is better than ugly, of course, explicit is better than implicit, and all the others. So it's just a Easter egg in this Python programming language. The next thing is always start your code with hello world. So to print, if you're coming from C++ background, you may be using C in. Yeah. If you are from, I guess, C, then you would be remembering something like printf and scanf. And you must be specifying that what type of, what data type are you trying to import. So you must be using %d, %f, %s. But in Python, what you can do is just, okay, sorry, that's for inputs. For printing, it is there is printf, there is like C out for C and C++, and for Python, you can just write Python, or you can just write print and hello world. So this is your hello world program. Now assignment operators. So I think this would be better readable. Yeah. Now assignment operators. So to assign any value to a variable in C or C++, you first used to specify that whether it's a int or whether it's a string or whether it's a float and something like that. But in Python, what you do is just you write your variable name and you write the value you have to give, and that's it. So you have just assigned these variables with this 2, 5, and hey. So after that, again, you can just print out these variables, separating with commas. So you can separate these variables with commas and you can write anything you want with it. So I've just printed these variables assigned with those values, and you can see that 2, 5, and hey are printed. So now about those user inputs. So if you have to give input, so like if you have to take input from your users, what you want to use is this input command. So what this input command does is that it allows users to give their input. So in C, you would be familiar with scanf, and there also inside it you must be familiar with %d, that is for integers, %f for floats, and for C++ there is something like C in. But for user inputs in Python, what you can do is just you can use this input. So only input, what it will do is it can take any input and it will just consider it as a string. So you can see this ABC, so it's considered string. Also, even if you give integer, so this integer would be considered as a string, and you can use type to check it. So type of this variable, it's a string, although I gave it 21. So to like get only int, let's say, you can just enclose this input statement with a int, and then you can give integers. So here it is 32 and the data type is integer. And okay, there is also float. So you can explicitly set that whatever values you're getting from this input command, you want it as a float. So even if I give 31, it will be converted to a float. So it will be 31.0. And you can see that type it's float. And string is the default, so you don't have to write string. You can just keep it as input and give any input. So you can just write anything you want as a statement. So you can say like give me a value. So it's just a print statement which is asking for an input. So like I guess it's very much easier as compared to C or C++, because all you need is just this input. And also one more thing, this ABC, I haven't explicitly set it like variable. Like for JavaScript, what you do is you write var ABC, you initialize it somewhere. But in Python, what you can do is just you can initialize your variable anywhere and you can give it its values. So moving forward, these are some of the operators you can use in Python. So I've used most of them which you would be needing, and I'm just simply printing those values. So you can print like 1 plus 2, there is 3, 211, and there is a floor division of it by 2, and all these arithmetic operations. How do we run the program in Google Colab? Okay, I'll show you how it works in Google Colab. So what you do in Colab is that as I'm writing these, like as I'm going through this notebook, yeah, you can just write it in Google Colab. So go to colab.research.google.com. Here there is a new notebook option. Just create a new notebook, and you can write whatever code is given. Okay, so the same thing happens. Shift plus enter is shortcut for running these things, and you can insert your code cells and text cell. So this text would be in Markdown language. You can just Google it out what it is. You can just write whatever you want to give notes. So like assignment, let's say, and you can just shift enter. So it's just running it. You will get a cloud instance, and you can run it like here as well. Why did it print? Okay, yeah, so that is the funny part. So what happens is that in Google, like anywhere in notebooks, what you can do is instead of explicitly writing print, you can even just give this single, like explicitly writing print would also give you the value, and just writing this variable would also give you the value if it is at the end of the statement. Like if there is a code block and only this thing is written at the end, then it will just print its value. So that's how it works. So like that is just a power of it. What you can do is, so like for type also, only if you have this only type somewhere above written and you are assigning something new here, so then it won't be printed. See, but if this type is at the end of this box, so it will just act as a print statement and it will print whatever the value it contains. So that's a powerful feature of Python notebooks. And one more thing is that even in this Jupyter, you can just go and download it as whatever extension you like. So you can just download a Python script and the notebook as well. Similarly, in Google Colab, you can do the same. So you can just download a Python script or this notebook as IPYNB extension. So I guess with operators, you are like, you got what operators are. Also, you can just use it with variables as well. So I can assign a equal to 3 and b equals to 5. Then I can do a plus b and everything also. So a plus b. So 3a plus 5, this 8, a plus b, as easy as that. Yeah, exactly. Scroll up. Okay, where, Kanishka? Kanishka, can you in 4? Could you be more specific, please? Is there an automatic space in 4?
He's talking about indentation. She's talking about indentation.
Yeah, well, we haven't given an indentations yet. Indentation would be later on. Okay, cell 4. Okay, this thing. Okay, here, yeah. So you are like just separating these variables now. So there is just a space given in them because these are different types of data types. So both are int and here it is string. So they are just like written, like printed like that. Automatic space, exactly. I'm not really understanding what's happening. Could you please explain in short? Okay, what's happening is that I'm just giving a basic introduction of some of the cool features of Python. So as we always get started with hello world, so we started with hello world as well. And we started with the print hello world statement. And I'm just showing that how Python is better to read and interpret as compared to C or C++ and all. So once you have worked with Python, so here are of course some of the operations you can perform in any programming language. Of course, Python is much easier than C. because in just single lines of code, you have the ability to do some things which can't be done in C or C++ in, let's say, 2 to 3 line of code. Yeah, again, one more thing. In C or C++, what you do is that you give a header statement. So there is import stdio, I guess. Okay, there is, you import stdio, you use conio.h. So in Python, you don't have to give any inputs like for these operations only. You don't have to explicitly import any stdio.h or conio.h like it. So you can just directly run these programs easily, and you don't need any header files for that. And these are the other types of operators, that is the relational operators. So it can just show the relations between a variable. So like I assigned here z equals to 1. Okay, then I asked my compiler is z is greater than 1, and I have written this statement in last, so it's just equal to writing print z equals to 1. So this is almost as equivalent as equals to print z is greater than 1. So this statement is just as equal as writing this statement. And that is what is power of Jupyter or any other node Python notebooks IDE. So I can also do if z is less than 1, so it's of course false. And for if z is equals to 1, I have to see, then I have to give this two equal to's. So if z is equals to 1, then I'll get true because z was assigned as 1. And one more thing I wanted to add was this thing, this hashtag. Hashtag is used to like write whatever explanation of code you have to write. Okay, so you can just write this code does this, and what it explicitly tells the compiler is that just ignore this line. So this hashtag, it just tells the compiler to ignore this line. Comments, exactly, it's a comment. So comments in Python are with hashtag, they are not with // or anything else, it's with the hashtag. So these are some bitwise operators, and they basically perform with binaries. So I just did A or B, and A and B were 2 and 3. So in binary, it would be 1, 0 and 1, 1, and their OR operation was 3. So like this. And some inbuilt functions are, this is a power function. So power function, what it does is that it just gives, like if this is A and this is B, so what it will do is it will give A to the power B. So 5, let's say, to the power 3. So 5 to the power 3 is basically 125. Multi-line comment is with these three, like, what do you call it? Three inverted three inverted commas.
Strings.
Yeah, it's also called as multi-line string.
Yes, if you want to write multi-line comments, then it is used.
So you can write multi-line comments here.
Else you can use hash if you want to write single line comment.
Yeah, and hash is for single line comments. So similarly, you can convert any number to binary. So this 0b is just, it is telling that this thing is written in binary. Similarly for hexadecimal, so 0x stand for this thing is in hexadecimal. It's just a notification, and AA is the value of 170 in hexadecimal. Similarly for octa, so 0O stands for this thing is in octa, and 252. Similarly, you can convert it in int. You can write 0O 252. So you are just telling that convert this octal value in integer. So 170 it was. And some basic data structures that you are going to use in Python. So those are like lists. So you would be using lists more oftenly, and lists are just the most common data structures used, and they are just sequence of data, and they are initialized with this square brackets. So you just initialize an empty list with a square bracket. You will do so anytime you want to see that what is the data type of any particular variable, just enclose it with this type command. So you can just enclose any variable with the type command, and you can see that whether it's whatever type of thing, like what is the value of that variable. Not the value, but data type. I'm so sorry. So what is the data type? And one feature of list is that indexing. So as of any programming language except R, the counting starts from 0. So so this is my X. It's a list of apple and orange, and I can index it, and I will say what is on your 0th position. So 0th position would be apple. So it prints apple for me. Similarly, there is a thing called as negative indexing in Python. And what it does, it is that it starts indexing from backwards. And when we are using negative indexing, so the negative indexing starts from -1. So -1 would just give me the last value of any particular list, and that would be orange in this case. Similarly, if you have a list, let's say this num, so it's a list of 0 to 9 integers, and you can just slice those. So if I just want to print out from 0 to 4th position, so I'll just go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and those things would be printed. So this 4 is this 0 is inclusive, and this 4th position is exclusive. And what is it means is that 0 would be included and 4 won't be included. It will be only till the value of third one. So you can just slice any of any lists by using this num and this slicing values. And similarly, so as this is an end statement, I won't be using print, and I can just print. So it printed this value as well, just because it was at the end of a code block. And now let's see what num looks like. So it's again like that. And similarly, these lists like are like a stack in Python. So if you know what stack is, I can just append any value. Doesn't need to be an integer, as these are integers. So I just appended a string, and I can just print the num again. So apk was appended. Actually, I ran this code block twice, so that's why it was appended twice. And I can just do pop as well. So it will pop once, it will give apk, it will give apk again, and the third time it will give 9. So it's just popping from the end, just like as a stack. And this is how num looks like. And similarly, lists, you can give the index and you can change whatever you want to in the values. So here I have changed the 0th position with I changed it. It was initially 0, 1, 2 and everything. So I changed the 0th, the value of the 0th position of the list. Now tuples. So tuples are exactly as same as lists, and what different is that tuples start from these brackets, curly bracket, not curly, but these brackets. What do you call it, Aditya? The normal half circular types of brackets. And
round brackets, kind
yeah,
of.
it's exactly. And the only difference with list and tuple is that you like in tuples you can't change the values. So here I use the index, and I tried to change the value of a list, so that thing won't be happening in a tuple. So once you give any value to the tuple, it's fixed. Means for the particular index, you can of course, yeah, they are immutable, exactly. So now I have just printed the type of this tup variable, and it was a tuple with hello. Okay, so if I assign in a tuple, if I give any string, then it creates a tuple with individual alphabets. So I gave hello, and with individual alphabets, the tuple was created. Tuples are Sanskar. Okay. And so of course there is then like on the index of 2, what is there? So 0, 1, 2, and I get the output as L. Similarly, I can assign one tuple to another and it will just index it with the other one. So if I write B, so B is assigned with beta, A for alpha, C for gamma. So I've just created two tuples and they are just made equal to each other. So these things are given the values of alpha, beta and gamma.
Athava,
Yeah.
Bhakti is asking to explain about the tuples.
Tuple is same as a list, but the only difference would be you won't be able to change anything in the tuple. So once you have given any value in a tuple and you try to change it using indexing, so if I try to change it, so it won't happen and it will give me an error. While in lists, you can do it. So that's the basic difference. Basically, they are lists only. And see, like in 1 hour, it's of course not possible to teach complete Python. We get it. You might be exhausted, but don't worry. This thing would be repeated in the further sessions. You would be seeing this hands-on more often and you will get a hang of it. It's not so hard once you will revisit with this notebook, which we would be sharing in GitHub. Then I think you would be pretty much able to get the hang of it. It's very easy. And another data type is dictionaries. So for these lists or tuple, you might be seeing that they are indexed with 0, 1, 2 integers. But what do you do with the dictionary is that you create your own index. So instead of using 0, 1, 2 for indexing, I can use these curly brackets to initialize a dictionary and I can specify whatever I want to as my index. Okay, so this brand is the index, so I can just do, it's not, so this dictionary, I've created this dictionary and I've indexed it with model, so it will give me model, and that's Mustang. Okay, now strings. So the beauty of Python is that there is no like you can initialize strings with single curly, like with this single inverted comma, double inverted comma, and in fact for multi-line these three inverted commas. So I can write a multi-line string with this triple inverted comma, and double and single are basically the same in string. In Python, the strings with double inverted comma and single inverted comma are the same. So I've just printed here string 1, string 2, and those would be exactly same. Okay, string 2 is this multi-line and string 1 is again. So this string 1, string 0, they would be completely same. And of course, strings could be indexed as well, just like lists. So here I have asked for the fourth element in the string Taj Mahal is beautiful. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is M. So M is printed and I have sliced it from 4. Give me everything till the end. So I have not written any value here and it specifies that from 4 till the end I want to print everything of string 0. So string 0 is Taj Mahal is beautiful, and from the fourth index, that is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, this is M. So from M it will print everything. So Mahal is beautiful is printed. How about string 2? Yeah, so in string 2 also you can do the similar thing. So string 2, it was starting with M as well, and everything is printed after it. And as it's a multi-line string, so it's printed in multiple lines. See, basically just like tuples and lists, you can just use indexing in strings as well. And this is a inbuilt function called as the find function, and it will just find these letters, and wherever they are, I can just get the index of where these letters are present. So AL, the first occurrence of AL, you need to remember that it will only give the first occurrence. So the first occurrence of AL, so Taj Mahal, first occurrence of A and L both, so it's here and it's on the 7th index. Similarly, AM and AM is not here. So why does it give me a value? So the thing is, don't get confused with this -1. If it doesn't find anything in the particular string, it just returns -1. And it doesn't mean that it's in the end. It means that it was not able to find any position for this particular string. I can write anything. So I wrote Taj, and Taj was the first letter. So that's why it gave me 0. So it was found on the 0th element. So like that. And these are some if else statements. So I initialized x equals to 12. So x has the value of 12. Now in Python, what you need to take care of is indentation. So in C or C++, you must be using, let's say, if you're using a if statement. So if statement, you give your parameters here. Let's say I equals to 0, I is less than equals to 5, and I plus plus. Okay, and you give this curly braces and you write whatever body you want to in these things, right? But what happens with Python is that you just have to take care of, instead of these curly braces, you have a thing called as indentation. And indentation is nothing but just spacing in front of writing the body of any control statement or any function or whatsoever. So I write a control statement. So if I is greater than, so basically this thing is equivalent to this. Sorry, it's a if statement. What am I doing? I thought it's a for. Sorry. So if I equals to 0, I equals to 10, and it will be equal to, right? So this thing in C or C++ would be equivalent to this. So if x is greater than 10, sorry, x is greater than 10. Now it's okay. So if x is greater than 10, print hello, else print by. And you have to take care of this indentation whenever you're going giving body for control statements. And this indentation is equals to 4 spaces, or you can just directly do a tab. So it's equal to 4 spaces, C1, 2, 3, 4, or a tab. So you can also use 2 spaces or 4 spaces. So 4 spaces is equals to a tab, and 2 spaces is also available. So just like that. And now the for statement that I wrote previously. So in C or C++, you might be doing for I equals to 0, then I less than 5, and I plus plus. Yeah. Okay, here is this I plus plus. So this thing, equivalent for this thing is just this line. So for I in range, so range is basically an inbuilt function is in 5 array in Python, and what it does is that in the range all the values are selected. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all will be there, and when you print I, it will be printed. So as I said that the end number is not considered, it's exclusive, and the first number is inclusive. So that's why it's only till 4. So here is just multiple control statements. So I can provide any integer. Let's say I gave 40. So if x is less than 0, and then colon, so print negative. So it was not less than 40. It's not equals to 0. It's not equals to 1. So it went to this else statement and it printed more. So similarly happened with like let's try another one. So 1, and it will print 1. So just like that. So I would be uploading this notebook on GitHub, and you can just cross-reference it once again. Then you would be getting the hang of it. I am sure that it would be frustrating for in the beginning, because like Python is a big language and it won't be covered in only 1 hour. So that's why give it time. We have given some references, and you can just go through those references and get started with Python. And now we would be moving towards linear algebra. So Aditya.
Yes, I will be continuing the session. Okay, so that was enough for Python. Now we'll be moving on to the linear algebra, basics of linear algebra. Okay, so Now, for anything like machine learning or deep learning, the basic starter pack that you need is to have the knowledge of linear algebra. Okay, so in linear algebra, we will be focusing on vectors and matrices since they will be used on large basis. So why we prefer vectors? So if you have studied Python or if you have some experience in Python, you may know that there are for loops, there are list comprehension, this map function. So these were the Python functions. All these you use in Python. Okay, so this is also in Python, this is also in Python, and this is also in Python. But NumPy is a special library which we use for mathematical calculation purpose. Okay, so when we compare all their speeds, okay, on the left hand, on the x-axis we have various types of operator, on the y-axis we have taken the time taken to perform a specific operation. So we can see that NumPy takes the least amount of time while performing the operation. That's why we use NumPy for any mathematical calculations. So the vectors have these many advantages. They have very much speed. They have organized data. They are computationally efficient. They support GPU. So they will be very helpful if you are trying to study deep learning. So you will be only working with vectors and nothing else. Okay, so I guess so you have already studied these vectors from your class 10th, 11th, 12th. So this is y x vector, this is my y vector, and when I'm going to resolve these two vector, I'm trying to get a z vector. X vector plus y vector, resolution of these vectors will get me a z vector. So I can directly multiply by any scalar. So that's the properties of vector. So now we'll be moving on to the vector intuition. So okay, so Nikita is saying, I will speak slowly. No worries, Nikita. Okay, so what is a scalar? The first of all question is, what is a scalar? I would like some replies into the chat box. What is a scalar?
Yeah, can anyone just type it? What do you understand by the word scalar?
Just rough idea. What is scalar? Any numeric value can measure. Okay, great. Okay. Yes. So
The thing is, since you would be moving forward, you would be remembering some of the concepts you learned in, I guess, 10th, 11th, and 12th standard. So it will be just implementation of those things in Python in this session.
okay, so what is a scalar? Scalar is a singular values like 1, 2, 43. It is a singular value. What is a scalar? It is a singular value. Okay, so now we'll be moving on to the what is vector. So consider this as an example of a vector. We have a car, we have car's economy, we have car's crash rating, car's velocity, car's emission, and car's price. So when we try to put all these values into one form, so we get a vector. Okay, so the economic factor, the price, emission, all these were scalars since they are singular value. When we try to combine or try to put them into the singular value, singular matrix, we get a vector. So what is a vector? Vector is a collection of scalars. So when we here we have substituted our values. 13 lakhs is the price of the car, 21 kilometer per liter is the fuel efficiency, 4 out of 5 is the crash rating, the top speed of the car is 210. So combination of all the scalars makes a vector. That's the general intuition of a vector. Okay, and it has 5 dimensions since it has 5 rows. Okay, next we will be moving on to how to define a vector. So NumPy, as I already told you, it is used in Python for mathematical calculation. This is the most efficient library for mathematical computation. So we'll be moving on to the Google Colab if you want to type it. But let's just skip for this while. We will be giving you the notebooks for the same. You can try it on your own. So I will just explain the code. So we'll be importing NumPy. NumPy is a module which we use for calculation. Importing NumPy as NP. So you can import as anything. You can import as A, import NumPy as B, import NumPy as C. Even I can import NumPy as Aditya. Okay. So this is just for our convenience. Next, we will be moving on to how to make a vector. So just now Atharva told you what is a list. List is a collection of items. So can you focus here? The 1, 2, 3, 4 is the list. Okay, so now we are making a vector from a list. So I'm defining a vector, a variable v. Inside that variable, yes, I can show the previous slide. Yes, hold on. Okay, so this is the previous slide. I am giving you the vector intuition. So you have five scalars, and collection of scalar forms your vector. Okay, yes, any doubts still here? I guess, okay, great. Okay, so this is a vector. How we are defined a vector? I am defining a variable v. Inside that variable, I am using numpy function. Since I imported it as np, I will be using np, and we have a function called as array to make a vector. So v is equals to np dot array. Inside that array, we are passing on to the list. And if you want to see the list, we will be just printing print v, and it will print out the vector. Okay, so previously it was a list, now it is a vector. Okay, so another way to make a vector is I am defining a variable v, np dot array, and this is a function which will print out the values from starting till n minus 1. Now in the case of 1 to 5, 1 is our starting value s, and n is our 5, so it will print from s till n minus 1. N minus 1 is 4, n minus 1 will be your 4, so it will try to print the values from 1 till 4, and it has printed 1 2 3 4. Okay, so this is some of the basics. So I guess so all know vector arithmetic addition. It is just performs element wise. Okay, so 1 plus 4 10 plus 0. So these are all the basic calculation. Vector subtraction is also performed similar wise. So now we will getting the element wise subtraction. Okay, so how do you perform vector addition or subtraction? So I guess so we have defined our vector. How to define a vector? Okay, so I'm defining a variable a. So arrays are computationally efficient, Sakshi. That's why we use array. Okay, so I'm defining a variable a. Inside the variable, I am passing on to my array a. I'm defining my another variable b. Inside that variable, I have also stored an array. And for doing the subtraction, I'm just simply subtract b from a. It will print the values. Okay, so if you want to do the addition for the same, you will be printing c is equals to a plus b. Okay, nothing much more about it. Okay, so yes, we'll be moving on to the vector. Now, what is a scalar? Since I already told you, scalar is a singular value like 1, 2, 3, anything that is a singular quantity is a scalar. Again, I'm importing numpy as np, defining a vector v, variable v. Inside that variable, I'm passing on to array, and simply I am multiplying it with the scalar 2. So now what will happen is 2 will grow inside that bracket. Okay, 2 will go inside that bracket, and we will be getting multiplied with each of these number 2 into 1, 2 into, and then we will be getting out this as output. Okay, so that's for a multiplication by scalar. So else you can do another thing is that you can do make a list of 2 2 2 2 2 similar as the name of the columns, and you can multiply. Both are one and the same. Okay, so now when I'm this is my vector r. So when I'm multiplying a vector r by a, I'm getting ar if a is positive. What if a? Any guesses? The question is, I have a vector r. If I'm multiplying with a value a which is negative, then what will happen? So any answers from you guys? Yes. It will go downwards. It will get the direction will be changed. So if a is negative, my direction will be getting changed. So that's how it performs. So I have my vector I vector and my j vector. So it can be represented as r vector is represented by 3 and 2, and my I vector is represented as minus 1 and 2. Okay, so this can also be represented as Si and Sj, and r can be represented as Ri and Rg. What I'm doing, I'm just taking the dot product of these two, r into s. So what will happen? So minus 1 will be getting multiplied with 3 and 2. That's a simple multiplication. Okay, so now we get that the value as 1. Okay, so either you multiply r with s or s with both are one and the same, since they are commutative in nature. So now we'll be moving on to the transpose. So what is numpy? Okay, what is numpy? I can't be able to understand. Okay, Vaishnavi, numpy is just a library which you use for performing mathematical calculation or any type of calculation in Python. Okay, it is much handy than any other thing. Suppose you are using for loops or list comprehension, they take much more time and they are computationally efficient. But if you use NumPy, they speed your calculations, they take your memory less. Otherwise, my voice breaking a lot.
Yeah, sometimes in between your voice breaks, but it's not too frequent. I'll tell you when it's too
So
much.
if it happens next time, I will change my network. No issue.
Yeah.
Just tell me.
Yep.
Okay, so now we'll be moving on to the vector transpose. So what is a transpose? Transpose is nothing but converting my row vector into column vector, or else converting my column vector into my row vector. Okay, so this is my row vector x, and now I'll be converting into the this is my column vector, and I'll be converting into the row vector. So just I am transposing x, so x transpose is x1, x2, x3. Okay. Yes, we will be sharing the content file. Wait for it. Okay, so vector is nothing but a m by n matrix where your n equals to 1. That's the simple definition of a vector. Or else you can say vector is a collection of scalars. Okay, so we'll be seeing how to make a transpose. So for doing the transpose of a vector, we have three types of functions available in NumPy. Again, I'm importing NumPy as NP. Now I'm taking v is equals to np.random.rand. Okay, so ignore it if you don't understand it. You just use the previous functions like this. How I'm defining my vector np.array 1 2 3 4 5 6 anything. So the function which I'm using right now is np.random. It will just randomly put any values between 0 to 1. Okay, so you can see it is giving me the random any values between 0 and 1. For just my purpose, I am using the random function. Now for doing the to find out what is the shape of our vector, we'll be using our variable name dot shape. Dot shape function will give you the shape of the vector or the matrix. So it is showing now it is has 5 columns and 1 columns. Okay. So now to do the transpose, we have three methods. So this is our first method. We'll be simply doing v dot capital T. Note that it is capital T. Okay, so it will just change my column vector into the row vector. Okay, so this was our complete column vector, and now it is converted into our row vector. So this was our first method. The second method which we'll be using is by doing v dot transpose. Just write transpose and parenthesis. Okay, so again we can see that it is getting us the row vector. Also you can check the dimensions. First the dimension was 5 cross 1, now the dimensions are 1 cross 5. And the last method which we'll be using to convert is transpose np.transpose. Since we are using np from numpy, we can simply write np.transpose and we will put the variable v inside that. Okay, so these are three methods, you can use any of them. Okay, so let's move forward. So dot product and transpose. So I have a vector r and I have a vector s. Okay, so I will be just doing the transpose of r vector and will be multiplying with r vector into s. So my r vector is 3 comma 3 and 2, and my s vector is -1 and 2. So when I'm multiplying this, I'm getting the same value as previous one. Okay, so it's one and the same. So the dot product and transpose is this. I'm defining my vector s. Again, I'm defining my vector r, and what I'm doing is to multiply these two vectors. I'm simply using dot. The dot function is available in NumPy. So what I'm doing is I'm multiplying r with s. So either you can write r dot s or you can say r s dot r. Both will do the multiplication. Okay. Can you please show the transpose slide once? Okay, so this is the transpose slide. So I'm using three functions here. First one is v dot capital T for doing the transpose, else you can use v dot transpose function, else you can use np dot transpose, which is available in the NumPy module. Okay, Samiksha? Okay, great. So for doing the multiplication, I'm using the dot product dot function in the NumPy module. Okay, so it will give me the dot product of this. So this is my simple multiplication, else you can do by multiplication by transpose. If you want to do the multiplication by transpose, I have already told that you can use r dot capital T. So it will be doing the first transpose of r vector, and then it will be multiplying by the s vector. And v dot matmul is the function which you use for multiplication. It used for multiplication. Okay, so both generate the same results. Either you use r dot s, or you can use first do the r transpose and then multiply it with s. Okay, both are the one and the same. So yes, r dot as is also same as a parenthesis r dot s. Okay, these are one and the same. So vector product with itself is just as r1 square plus r2 square. We can write it as modulus of r square. Okay, so these were the some of the basics. You no need to learn this by heart, but this is the most important topic, vector norm. You will be using in machine learning a lot. What are norms? Okay, so a function that operates on a vector and represents a scalar matrix. Okay, so it's always a non-negative value. So what is the basic intuition behind norm is just understand norm is just used for measuring the distance. So norm is used for measuring the distance d. Okay, so that's what's the main aim of the norm. Forward these definitions. Okay, so the norm formula looks like LP is equals to summation I ranges from 1 to n modulus of xi to the power of p and whole to the power 1 by p, where p represents where p is greater than or equal to 1. Okay, so this is a very bit scary. So just we'll substitute some values. Okay, so when I'm substituting the value of p is equals to 1, so what I will be getting 1 and here 1. So summation of x to the power 1 and whole to the power 1. So what is that? Modulus of xi. Again I'm putting the value of I is equals to 2. This is 2, 2. Again I'm getting modulus of 2. Okay, that's a simple mathematics. What if I put value of p is equals to 2? Now what the formula will become? X1 to the power, hold on, x1 square plus x2 square plus x3 square. Okay, whole to the power x1 square to the power 1 by 2. Now this is under root of x1 square. Okay, so that's what we use. Okay, hold on. Means you are just substituting the values of 1, 2 and 3. If you substitute the value of 3, you will be getting cube root of x1 cube plus x2 cube plus xn cube. Okay, so these were for 1 and 2. Now we will understand what if I substitute the value of p is equals to infinity. Suppose I am substituting the value of p is equals to infinity, it will return me the maximum value out of the vector. What does it mean? That if I have vector v and inside that vector I have some values 4, 9, 11 and suppose I have value 1. Okay, so what does it will do? It will just return me the maximum value out of the vector. So in the case of max p, when p is equals to infinity, it will just return me the value of 11 since it is the maximum. Okay, so now we'll be seeing for L1 norm. Means when I substitute the value of p, as I have already seen that if I substitute the value of p is equals to 1, I will be getting modulus of x1 plus modulus of x2 till modulus of xn. Okay, so again I'm importing numpy as np, and for doing the calculation linear algebra, again I'm importing from numpy dot linear algebra. This is the library again which is present in numpy. I'm importing norm function from this np dot linear algebra, numpy dot linear algebra. So I'm defining my vector a and I will be printing my vector. Okay, so my vector is starts from S till n minus 1. Okay, so 1 to 6 means 1 to 5. It will print from 1 to 5. And what it will does is I'm just calculating the L1 norm, and for L1 norm I'm using the norm function norm of a comma 1. Now what does a comma 1 represents here? A represents my vector which I already defined. This is my a vector, and the 1 signifies that I want to calculate the vector norm for the of to 1. Okay, so you can just do the directly summation of 1 2 3 4 5 and you will be getting the value as 15. That's how you do calculations for L1 norm. Okay, so now we'll be moving on to the L2 norm. L2 norm is just like we have studied the previous under root of x1 square plus x2 square. So all these are from the previous slide. Import numpy as MP. From numpy.linear algebra, you are importing norm function. Once again, you are defining your vector A, and for calculating the L2 norm, since in machine learning, most of the scientific researcher or scientists use L2 norm as default norm. So even if you don't specify the value of 2 in the parentheses, it will consider that you are calculating the value of L2 norm. So if you provide the value of 2, there is no fault. Even if you don't provide the value as 2, it will do the calculation for L2 norm. And what my L2 norm says that I have to do the square root and then addition and then whole square root. Sorry, squaring the number, then addition and then squaring. Okay, so 1 square plus 2 square plus 3 square plus 4 square plus 5 square whole under root of these values, and I will be getting the value as 7.41. So you have to try this code. I will be sharing the PPT after the lecture. And for the max norm, as I have already told you, it will give me the maximum value out of the vector. Again, I'm importing my array function and importing my norm function. What is different for the max norm is I'm using the infinity function from the math module. So that's why Python is very handy when you're doing calculations. There are various modules. So there is a module called as math in Python. I'm importing math module, and from math module I'm again importing the infinity function. So I'm defining my vector as a. After the defining as vector, I'm defining my another variable name as maximum, and in maximum the first value is a and the second value I'm substituting as infinity. We have seen the values for L1 norm, L2 norm, and now we are seeing the max norm. Okay, and for max norm we are substituting the value as infinity, and again what we can see is it is giving us the maximum value out of the vector. So from the vector 1 2 3 4 5 or the maximum value is 5, so we are getting the value as 5. So that's how the norm works. Okay, so just for your visual representation, this is the map of New York. Suppose I want to reach from point A to point B. I can't just directly go from point A to point B. So there are different routes, there are different squares. Okay, you can't jump from one home to another. There are streets. Okay, so you have to follow a specific path. Okay, so that's why your L1 norm is called as Manhattan norm or taxi cab norm, and your L2 norm is called as Euclidean norm since it is based on your Euclidean formula. Okay, Anshuman, the concept of norm just says that you have to use norm for the calculating the distance. Okay, when you have to calculate the distance, you are using norm. Okay, there are two types of norm, L1 norm and L2 norm. You won't be using max norm as much, but you have to remember what is L1 norm and L2 norm. L1 norm is modulus of your values and L2 norm is your under root of x1 square plus x2 square till xn square. Okay, just for measuring the distance. Just understand the concept of norm.
Don't worry if you don't get these concepts right now. This would be coming in practice when you will be doing some projects, so you would understand the code properly. And we are not expecting that in 1 hour you need to know everything. This is just kind of a crash course you get. But if you are a beginner, of course you won't be getting most of the things from crash course. If you just go back to it and see once again, understand then concepts, then I think it would be very easy for you guys.
Yes. Again, yesterday I referred to the YouTube channel of 3 Blue and 1 Brown. So you can again, if you are very new to this concept, you can just get a refresher from that also. Again, we will be sharing this PPT. You can practice it a lot at home. Okay. So that's for enough for vectors. Now we'll be just moving on to the matrix. I hope so every one of you have studied what is matrix. So this is called as my row vector. This is called as my row, and this is called as column. Again, what is matrix? Matrix is a collection of vectors, and what is a vector? Vector is a collection of scalars. Okay, just understand this figure. Okay, matrix is formed from vectors, and vector is formed from scalars. Okay, so this is called as entry 1 of 1. This is called as entry 1 of 2. Okay, so that's how you represent a matrix A11, A12, and as you move to the next row, it is called as A21, A31 till AM of 1. Okay, so if you this is my A matrix, if I just do the transpose, I will be getting as my column vector or column matrix. Okay, so now that's the important part of how you use matrices. So yesterday again I have given a little idea about house price prediction. Okay, what is house price prediction if you want to do? Okay, so you have your living area in square foot. Okay, just as example the understanding of house, that you want to predict the price of house based on the feature that how much is the square feet area of living. Okay, so if the square feet is 2104, the price you will be paying for buying the house is 62 lakhs. If the square feet is 2400, the price you which will be paying for buying the house is 76 lakhs, and so on and so forth. So each of this row is called as one observation in machine learning. Each of these rows is called as an observation. Okay, so that's how you use matrices in machine learning. Okay, so now the picture is much more clearer. You have three features, namely a living area called as x1, you have bedroom called as x2, you have parks in locality as x3, and this is the problem which you want to predict. So based on these features, you want to predict what is the price of the house. So now this is called as your y value. Okay, the value which you want to predict is called as y, and the features which you have already is called as x. So each row is called as observation. Suppose the living area is 2104 in square feet, the bedrooms are 2, and the parks in localities as 1. Then you will be paying the price of 62 lakhs. If the square foot area is 2900 and the house has bedrooms 3 and the parks in locality are 1, then you will be paying 103 lakhs. Okay, so that's how you use matrices for defining your problem statements. So just again, for defining a matrix, you will be importing numpy as np, and what you can see is this is just a collection of lists. Okay, this is a list and this is a list, and collection of list forms a matrix. Okay, so that's how you can see form a matrix. And if you want to see the shape of the matrix, you can just write mat dot shape, since I'm defining the matrix as mat, and it will be showing me the matrix is of shape 3 cross 3 matrix. Okay, so for multiplication, again I'm defining the matrix mat1. For matrix 2, I'm defining a mat2. And for doing just multiplication, I'm using the function called as matmul. Okay, so this is the function which is present in the NumPy library for doing the multiplication. It will simply do the matrix multiplication of mat1 and mat2. So this was my matrix 1, 3 cross 3. This was my matrix 2. And after multiplying these two matrices, I am getting my matrix resultant matrix as this. Okay, so if you are multiplying it by a vector, this is my vector v and this is my matrix, suppose m. Okay, so how the multiplication will be done? First you need to check if the number of the last value of a dimension of vector is matching with the first dimension of your matrix. Okay, so that's the most important part. If they aren't same, you won't be getting us the answer. It will throw us an error. You have studied in your 11th and 12th classes. And what will be the resultant shape of this matrix? It will be 1 cross 3. So the matrix multiplication will be happening, that my first row into my first column, 1 into 0, 4 into 4, 0 into 4, and 1 into 3. Addition of this gives me 3, and I will be substituting. Similarly, I will be calculating it for the third row, second row and third row, and it will be getting as 369. Again, I am defining my vector as vec, matrix as mat, and finally I am doing the matrix multiplication using np.matmul. Okay, so that's enough for the linear algebra. Don't worry if you don't get any of the topics, you will be getting shared with the PPT. You have the lectures to watch again from the YouTube. And even if you don't get it, will be I have already shared the link of Triblu One Brow channel, which is excellent for linear algebra. Okay, and Atharva, you want to say about the resources?
Yeah, of course. So many of you are first timers. So these are some of the resources that we have compiled, from which you can get introduction to Python, like from introduction to intermediate Python. These few resources would be the best. We like W3 schools a lot. If you can just click on show the documentation if it's possible.
Hold on. Okay.
So this Python documentation, we don't like it. It's just there. You can just reference it. But what we like the most is from W3 schools. So Aditya, show that W3 schools link.
Okay, so this is the website of W3 schools. You have each and everything clear cut mentioned. So you can learn each and everything from W3 schools. So when we first learn Python, we also learn from this website. We will be sharing this whole PPT, and at the end of the PPT, you can see the link of this W3 schools.
Okay.
So if you want to understand what are dictionaries, just know what Atharva taught you. So you can get a complete view of what is dictionaries. Again, you have the code. You can try it directly by clicking it on try it yourself. If you run, you will be getting the output of what is a dictionary. Okay, so yes, it has printed the brand name as pod. So this was your dictionary. You have loops, everything, each and everything. If a statement, yes, anything you want to know about Python, you have all these things mentioned here. Okay, so Atharva, you want to take the quiz?
Yeah, let's now jump to the quiz. So any of you who are just sleeping, this is going to be a fun quiz. Just trust me. And I just share my screen. So what you do is just go to this www.kahoot.it and it will ask for a game pin. Enter this game pin and just give it your full name. Please don't use any nicknames or anything, but use your full name. And trust me, it's a great quiz. So you would be enjoying it. Right, so Daryl is here. And actually, those of you who don't know how this platform works is, you just start joining this game pin, and till that time, you can see here how it works. So this is how I have, like, this is my screen. The thing that shows as a blackboard, this is my screen. And this is where you would be joining. Don't join this game pin. I'm so like, this is just for an introduction.
I have put the game pin in the chat box.
Yeah, right. Great. So just enter that game pin and join. So what you would be doing is you would be joining like this. Enter your full name. So I would be entering mine. And once you do this, so this is your device is ready and you can see your names on this screen. So here are all of your names. Great, great. Keep joining in. So this is how you would be seeing it. And once you are ready, so this would be happening. Tushar, please don't join this one, but join this link, this game pin. Okay, and once I will start, so what actually happens is that the questions would be shown on my screen. Okay, so if this is my screen, so the question would be shown in my screen and with the options. So this is the question and these are all the options, and this mobile phone is your device. So you have to select that what could be the possible option, and you have to just like if you suppose it's blue, so you can just click on the blue and you can check what its answer was. So just like this quiz is going to happen. And of course, 1, 2, 3 we see on the podium, which you would be seeing later. Keep joining in. This is the game pin. If you got it, great. If you didn't get how this is going to work, please ask us in the chat box. You have to see questions and its option on my screen. Okay, so you have to see my screen simultaneously, and you have to answer it on your mobile devices or whatever device you have joined in. You can use any device. Just go to this kahoot.it and enter this game pin and you would be in. So join in quickly. We will be waiting for just more 2 minutes. If anyone has any problems, please write it in the chat box. And once the game starts, the questions and its options would be shown on this screen, my screen. And you have to answer it by seeing the correct color on your device and mark your options. Please use your original names. So I've removed you plus, but please use your original names. YD, again, it would be great if you would use your original names. It's basically like we can download your attendance sheet by it. So it would be helpful for you to get certificates if you use your original names. Just 2 more minutes, then the quiz will begin. So just join in quickly. And in case you're not able to join,
Yes, we have 130 participants, and on the Kahoot we have only 107. What about others?
Okay, what error is it, Rishabh? And this quiz would be very easy, so don't worry. It's just about introduction to Python. I guess it would be very easy. The norms and all isn't included in this one, so don't worry. There is no score or any such kind. Means there is a score, but we won't be considering it. This is for just fun. I don't know why then they didn't load the music. Okay, 1 more minute. Okay, if you're seeing that you are in the game, then you're good to go. Just wait on that screen and don't exit that page. Okay, guys, join in quickly. 1 more minute, I'll be waiting. In case you have any problem, just write it in the box after this because you won't be able to join. And you have to see the questions and quiz questions and its options on my screen, and you have to mark it accordingly on your browser. So let's get started. Okay, anyone else remaining?
Yes, Atharv, we can start it.
Okay, let's begin. Okay, you're not a winner. Okay, let them play. Let them play, no problem. Let's play. So keep a look at my screen. see the options and mark it on your mobile with the same color code. Okay, fastest finger first. Great. So let's see who is on the leaderboards. Darshan is the second question. So you want a user input. What would be the code for Python? And that's absolutely correct. Okay, Daryl on the top. Okay, you want to convert numbers to string. Absolutely right. Now careful, because these both are strings. So 5 and 3 are strings. So what could be the answer? That's right. So you have to convert into numbers now. First it was strings, now numbers. So what would it be? Okay, it was to check if x is equals to hello, and the correct option is here. You have here is how you check it. Okay, you saw this symbol. So what the answer is? Well, it doesn't do nothing. I know it was confusing, but actually it ignores the line. I told it in the beginning of the session, but no worries. Okay, Shilpa, congrats. Okay, what does input do? Come on, this one is easy. Absolutely correct. Okay, Shilpa is still on the first place. So what is the data type of 3.95? Absolutely correct. Okay, so you have to see the picture and tell what would be the output if user entered the value 70. So I entered a value 70, and what would be the answer? One of these print statements would be activated. So which one it will be? Again, this is an easy question. Great, Shilpa gave all 11 correct. Wow. Okay, I guess image is not clear, but there is something wrong with this program. I am printing something, I am assigning value, but something is wrong. And figure it out. And this is the end of the quiz. So let's see who won. Congrats, Johnny, third place. Kanishka Agrawal, second. Okay, Daryl is back. Shilpa shifted to fourth and Sameeksha to fifth. Congrats, guys. Let's take a screenshot of this. Okay, so 51% of the answers were correct and people face difficulties in these questions. Thank you so much for joining in. This would be the end of this session. I know this would have been a bit hard. This whole session would have been, but yeah, the quiz is of course fun. We know that. We hope that you liked the quiz, and it's of course not possible for you all to get Python completely in just 1 hour. We get it, and that's why you have to look it out once. Go to W3 schools, go to any other place, and just reference it, and that would be great. Also, we have Thomas ma'am. She is HOD of AI branch with us. So thank you, ma'am, for joining in. And if you want to say something, please, the stage is yours.
Okay, am I audible?
Yeah, ma'am. Of course.
Yeah, okay. So wonderful session. Congratulations, Aditya and Atharv. You've conducted the session really well. And yeah, I can see the responses that students have given. They have enjoyed the quiz. So congratulations to the entire CIS team. And a word for all the participants. So this is conducted by the IEEE Computational Intelligence Society. And it will be great to have all of you as a part of the society as members. Okay, so once you can speak to Aditya or Atharv, and they can tell you how you can be members or a part of this society. All right, so congratulations once again to the entire team for wonderful conduction of the program, and hope to see all the participants with equal interest, in the upcoming sessions. Right, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so just a quick guide in the quiz 2. So, in the week 2. So in the week 2, what you would be learning is just you would be getting started with algorithms, and you would be coding after learning the concepts, and it would be a project based learning. So you would be making some projects, and I think you would like it better. And all those concepts which were covered today, so that we hands-on coding lab, and I think you would be getting the hang of it. So Aditya, would you like to say something?
Okay, just revise the concept once again, which we taught you yesterday and today's concept. Just get the quick refresher of Python and some concepts of linear algebra. Atharva has sent you, will be sending you the notebooks of today's classes. So just go on and from the next lecture we will go into the some of the details of algorithms. So yes, we won't be studying don't only the hands-on practical, but we will getting into the some of the theoretical concepts, how the equations are being getting the how the equations are being getting derived. So you must know some of the maths, so you can get a quick refresher from the Three Blue One on YouTube channel. So make sure you just take your copy and pen and write down some of the mathematical concepts which you will be requiring for your Monday classes, sorry, upcoming classes. And yes, that's it. If you want to give some feedbacks or reviews, if you want something to improve from our side, the feedbacks are always welcome. You can type it in the chat box. Now the next class is on Saturday. Yes. If you have any doubts, just ask us. Thanks a lot. Okay, great. Okay. Okay, you can also tweet, or if you want to post on LinkedIn, just do not forget to tag us. The handles are already given. If you want us to give the handles, we will be sharing our Twitter and LinkedIn handles once again in the evening. Yes, thank you guys.
Also, to join the WhatsApp group, you can post anything you want there regarding Python, or if you have any difficulties, just post it there. People would be glad to help you out. Okay.
And yes, if you have some doubts, people who know the answers, you can also give them answers in the WhatsApp group, even if you don't available in the WhatsApp group, or else you can also tag them and send them the answers. Okay. Even when I am teaching the some of the concept, and we won't be able to see each and every doubt. So if someone knows the doubt, just put into the chat box and help each other.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you once again. So this is the end of this session.